Okay. So, hi, everybody. I'm really glad you're here today. And I just want to say, first of all, this is not a normal webinar. You're not here just to take notes or collect more information. You're here to experience something. And that means this isn't a webinar to sit back and watch passively. It's a work session. And I'm going to ask you to participate, to imagine, to notice, to feel, and to try things for yourself. So that participation is where the actual value of our time together will come from. Look, you already know this feeling. Some nights everything works, the music feels really easy and alive, and the audience is with you, and you're with yourself, and the whole thing flows. And then there are other nights you feel stiff and careful and really off, and something is just missing. It's a completely different experience. That difference isn't necessarily about talent or how much you practiced. It's about what's happening inside you while you perform. And most musicians are never taught how to work with that. Okay, we're actually going to try something simple before we really start the webinar. And we're going to do a little exercise in what I call embodied imagination. So this isn't imagining only with your mind. It's allowing your whole body and all your senses to participate. So now close your eyes if it feels comfortable. Nobody's watching you. I can't see you. So close your eyes and just get present. Take a nice, relaxing breath. Okay. Now, using your senses, I want you to see a vast blue sky stretching out above you. And just take a breath, kind of let everything go. And now a great yellow sun is shining, and I want you to just feel it. Feel the warmth of the sun on your face, on your shoulders. If there's a breeze, notice the breeze against your skin. Maybe there's a bird somewhere in the distance. Hear the bird song. Listen. Now see it flying across the sky. There's ground beneath your feet if you're standing. Maybe you're lying down and you can feel it underneath your entire body. Notice whether anything changes in your breath, in your body, your emotional state. And now, if you're ready, just open your eyes. Okay. Now, nothing around you changed physically, right? But something might have changed inside you. That's embodied imagination, creating an experience with your whole self, not only with your mind. And tonight, we're going to learn how to work with that deliberately. We're not just going to talk about it, we're going to experience it right here in your own body. So give yourself permission to be present. You don't have to perform for me and you don't have to get anything right. Just participate and notice what happens. We're going to be together for maybe an hour, maybe a little longer. Please have something to write with, and if possible, have your instrument nearby. We're going to use both. We're going to use both. Okay, now we're going to begin. So welcome to Being on Stage. It's a place where musicians free themselves so they can free their music. So you're freeing yourself so you can free your music. This program is for musicians who know they have more to give and want to give it every time. I'm sure you all know how to play, and I'm sure you put in the hours. But sometimes you walk off stage feeling like the real you never showed up. The music's in there, but under the pressure of performance, something blocks it. If you've ever left performance thinking that this wasn't really me, if you want to stop fighting yourself on stage, if you want to feel free every time you play, not just on lucky nights, Being on stage is for you. In fact, it's for every and any musician, any and every instrument, and any and every style. Now, if you just want some quick tips and tricks, I guess that's okay, but this is probably not the thing for you. This is all about learning to get out of your own way so your music can come through consistently. I've developed this work over the years with people in all walks of life because this work is not about what you do. It's about who you are. Oy, it's about being. This experience moved me deeply. I trusted myself to play as I truly am. That was Hannah Schutz. She's a young flutist who experienced this work. Waiting for Mr. Keene to
I'm
come
Phil
on.
Keene. I'm a photographer, videographer. My business is Blue Sky Farm Productions, and this was really profound today. And Keith, you really helped me find something I didn't know that was in me, and my plan now is to use it in expressing my own passion.
We spoke in our own voices, our own mother tongues, German, English, Spanish, Turkish, and Ukrainian. We learned that it's enough to simply be. That's what the students of the Hanover School for Music, Media, and Theater in Hanover, Germany said after they experienced this work. What do all these people have in common? Well, they all had a deep desire to free themselves on stage, and they were searching for a method that experience alone had never given them. This is what we're going to cover tonight. Secret number one, why technical mastery of your instrument alone will never make you a free performer and what will. Secret number two, why the very thing you're doing to protect yourself on stage is actually holding you back. And secret number three, how to access your inner score and bring it to life in performance every single time.
I thought it would be, I would get maybe some tips on some ways to say things and do things, but it was so much more. It was much more sensitive. It was much more real. What you brought to my attention this evening was things I forgot about when I was younger and how I felt. And I really appreciate that very much.
What Joan just described is the shift from technique to being, from learning what to do to experiencing how it feels to be real in the work. This is the same thing that musicians experience when they stop performing and they begin truly being on stage. Why is this different from other things you may have done? Well, this work is about you. It's about your instrument as an extension of you. This work, this process, this method is about freeing yourself so that when you perform, the whole of you shows up and the music can flow freely from you into your instrument. These are my goals for you from this evening. Number one, you'll discover a way to feel calmer on stage. Number two, you'll experience a method you can come back to before any performance. Three, you'll begin the process of not judging your nerves, your feelings, your experience on stage. And you'll get a clear feel for whether this kind of work is right for you. Of course, everyone who stays until the end gets the daily being. It's a daily routine that helps you feel present and open so that playing freely becomes normal for you and not just some happy accident. If you're serious about becoming freer and more fully yourself as a performer, this presentation could change the way you experience yourself on stage. My name is Keith Torgan, and what you're about to discover is a key part of what allowed me to be free myself on stage and in life. Now, I didn't start out wanting to perform. All I wanted to do was play. When I was a kid, I used to climb up on the ottoman in our living room and I put on shows for a massive, but of course, imaginary audience. But here's the thing, I got to tell you, I come from a long line of football coaches. Yes. Yeah, okay. So my father was a football coach. My uncle was a football coach. My grandfather was a football coach. There they all are. There is me as a young man. Okay. That was not my path. My dad figured this out pretty fast and he gave me a guitar. Very smart man. So I kept making music and putting on shows. But here's the thing, as I got older, I started worrying about what people thought about me. I stopped showing up fully. I started showing up carefully. I was physically on stage, but I wasn't being on stage. I was showing people the version of me I thought they wanted to see, not the real one. So I went looking for another way. Acting. Okay, just kidding about the. Well, look, most people think that acting is about fakery, it's about pretending, and it is that too. But more than that, it's about learning how to tell the truth in front of other people. And the best acting, like the best music, doesn't come from the surface. It comes from somewhere really deep inside. The performances that actually move people aren't coming from our fingers, they're not coming from our mouths. They are coming from somewhere much deeper. The real skill in acting and in music is learning how to get there on purpose. So I studied everything I could find, and I got better, but I couldn't break through. Then I found the missing piece. See, it wasn't skill that I needed. I was wearing armor on stage. Old habits, fears, ways of protecting myself I didn't even know were there. You can't share what's inside you with the audience if there's a wall between you and them. I started working with my body, not just my brain. I learned to actually feel what was happening inside of me. The thing that kept coming up for me, though, was I got to get rid of this armor. I was protected and I knew it had to come off, but that is really scary. And so, you know what I did for a while? I quit. I quit. And you know what I did? It's kind of funny, but it's true. I went and I sold Jeeps. Of course, being the songwriter that I am, I made up songs about the cars and sang them to my customers. My customers loved them. My coworkers were not big fans. I was definitely not in the right place. Then I met my wife, Barbara. No, she wasn't my wife yet. Okay. But anyway, she was this Juilliard trained flutist who played with orchestras all over the world. And I was this self-taught musician who'd recently been selling Jeeps. And I was a little bit nervous about what she was going to think about me and my music. Thank God. It was love at first sight. Truly, it was. And we built a life together and we played together. And in that space, everything I'd been studying finally clicked. Together, Barbara and I created Green Golly, an award-winning world where music and story theater and comedy opened the door to classical music for children. But we didn't stop there. We began designing and leading workshops, being workshops, songwriting workshops, art of living workshops, spaces where people could step more fully into themselves. We even published 2 musical children's books that grew out of our live shows. Green Gull and Her Golden Flute, the Parents' Choice Gold Award-winning book and audio, and also Little Kids, Little Songs illustrated album. During all of this, okay, I was finding new freedom on stage. It was incredible. In fact, everything I studied with all those teachers stopped being abstract. I was performing so much and using the work, and I could finally bring it into the work that Barbara and I did together. All this time that Barbara kept teaching and working with flute students, gifted flute students, toward getting them in major conservatories. Then one day she looked at me and she said, you know, all this acting work you do, musicians need this. They would benefit enormously. That was the aha moment. I put music, acting, body work, teaching into one approach. I translated it all into language that musicians could actually use. I began shaping what would become being on stage, bringing the principles of acting into my work with musicians. Something essential clicked into place. a way to help musicians free the music they already had inside them. Today, whether I'm on stage or writing songs or working with kids or guiding musicians and performers who want to feel at home on stage, the work's always the same. Helping people take off the armor that they don't need anymore. Helping people create an inner life where it feels safe to be honest. Helping people remember what they knew when they were young. I don't teach people how to perform. I don't give them fake confidence. I help people remember the joy, the thrill, the wonder of making music and who they were before they started performing. That's where the freedom lives. And that is where the real music lives. That's where it starts. Because when who you are is fully present, all the rest follows.
Thank you for helping me bring out my badass and kicking out that weak one. Anyway, thank you. It was beautiful. You're a healer. I saw everybody evolve, and I got inspired by the work. I saw you magically perform on everybody, and it was very sensitive and skillful, and I'm honored. I'm so happy I came.
Thank you for that. Being on stage grew out of a lifetime spent in front of people as a singer, as a songwriter, an actor, a storyteller, a guitarist, and a teacher. Learning not just how to perform, but how to be. Look, I did everything I was told would make me a better performer. Techniques, I learned how to control, I learned confidence, but I didn't feel at home on stage. All of that training didn't teach me how to be myself when people were watching me. And this is something even now that I have to look at every time I step in front of you. I have to be aware of being, simply being while you're watching me. I was taught to manage my nerves. I was taught about breath and focus and relaxation. What it did was it taught me to treat myself and my body and my everything like I was a problem. The more I tried to manage my nerves, the more nervous I was. One part of me performed and the other part of me judged. Then I worked on being confident, looking, sounding, and faking confidence. When confidence is phony, it's worse than useless. Being is real. And real is something you can count on. The real improvements didn't begin until I started removing my armor. That's me removing my armor. See, the improvements don't begin when you add tools. They begin when you start removing armor and learning how to create your inner life. Most training assumes something is wrong with you. Fix this, correct that, do it better. That assumption alone keeps you stuck. You were taught to push harder, give more, power through, play more expressively. But what does that even mean? Okay, I'm going to share a funny little video with you because I just thought you'd get a kick out of it. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. But here's the thing. What most of us were never taught. No one taught us how to be in our body without controlling it. No one taught us how to be seen without protecting ourselves, and no one taught us that our imagination is the most powerful tool. As long as you stay armored, you can perform, but you can't be fully there. When the armor comes off, something unexpected happens. Your playing improves. Your connection deepens. Your nervous system settles. This is the heart of being on stage. Not fixing, not managing, not defending. Over time, I found myself teaching these principles to anyone whose work required presence and truth. I began leading being on stage for musicians and non-musicians every chance I got. Places like New York University, the College of St. Rose, China Conservatory, and also with anyone who needed to stand up and be seen, from music schools to community gatherings across the country. I brought the work wherever people were ready to step forward and truly present themselves. What became clear again and again is how powerful this work is, not just for performance, but for authentic confidence and clarity and connection in life. Today, I'm bringing being on stage back to the music community because in difficult times like these, I believe artists are essential. You help preserve what's human, true, and worth protecting in the world. Thank you so very much for today. It was powerful, meaningful, and everyone walked away with so much. Judy Grant, director of the Boston Flute Academy. The hardest part wasn't creating the work, it was claiming it was mine to teach. Because you see, I know this work is powerful, but sharing it means allowing myself to be seen with all of my flaws and all of my uncertainty. I had to begin removing my own armor before I could ask you to remove yours. I have to remove my armor every time I step in front of the camera or every time I get on stage. I am not teaching from a place of perfection, okay? I'm teaching from honesty, experience, and my own continuing practice. And that is what makes this work real. I call the path to being on stage the inner score. But before I go on, I just want to say one thing, and I want to be totally transparent. Near the end of this evening, I'm going to tell you about the course, Being on Stage. It's a year-long program for musical artists who want to continue this work deeply, more deeply. And there's no obligation at all. For now, I simply want you to be fully present for what we're about to do. So as I was about to say, I call the path to being on stage the inner score. I call it the inner score because great performance is not just music. It's the inner life we generate to play the music. The inner score isn't something we stumble into. It's something we create. It's the technique musicians are rarely taught. It's the inner fuel that brings a performance to life. Imagine what performing will be like for you when you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You trust what you feel, you let it be seen. You step onto the stage already enough. You speak and play without tightening, and you recover quickly when things don't go your way, and you create from joy instead of fear. Secret number one: why technical mastery alone will never make you a free performer, and the one that will. Okay, here's what I want you to do now. I want you to take a moment and I want you to choose a short musical phrase from a piece that you like to play, or a piece you don't like to play, it doesn't really matter, but just a few notes. And you should take your instrument out. So to give you a moment to get your instrument out. Okay. First, I want you to play that few notes simply. I don't want you to add anything, and I just play the notes correctly. Now, imagine someone you deeply want to reach. Maybe it's someone you love, maybe it's someone you hate, maybe someone you've been fighting with, someone you meant to communicate with and you didn't. Somebody. I want you to see their face. See their face. Hear their voice in your mind's ear, your mind's ear. Feel the presence of that person. And ask yourself, why do I need to communicate with them? What happened between us? What do I need from them? Why am I playing this music for them? And don't search for perfect answers. Just let one simple circumstance come to you. Now, as you're imagining this, notice what's happening in your body and your breath. Look at that person in your imagination and silently say, I need you to hear this. Keep that in your heart, mind, and soul. Pick up your instrument again and play the same phrase. Do not try to make it more expressive. Simply allow the music to carry what it is you need to say to them. Notice what changed. The notes were the same. Your technique was the same. But now the music had a reason to exist. Ordinarily, we rely on adrenaline instead of access. When inspiration strikes, everything works. When it doesn't, we wait and we hope. Without a reliable way in, our best performances happen by accident. We train the mechanics, not the inner instrument. We spend years developing technique, but rarely train emotion, imagination, or presence. Now, the notes might be perfectly right, but something essential is probably missing. When you step on stage and feel pressure, something shifts. You stop thinking about sharing the music and you start thinking about not messing up. That shift from giving to protecting is what blocks the music. Performance can be simple. It can be elegant. It can be beautiful. We are capable of creating entire worlds with our music, but our armor gets in the way. It protects us. It blocks us. The inner score allows us to remove our armor and build an intentional inner life in its place, one in which we can feel, we can imagine, and we can enter into the world of the music. If you release the emotional blocks from your heart center, it allows your creative energy to move freely in you and through you. And this makes you more dynamic, magnetic, more compelling. Imagine, feel, create. That's the fuel, and that's the work. You've been practicing the music, but you haven't been practicing you. You think talent is the key. Access is the key. Access to your inner life is what creates consistency. Most of our musical training centers around correctness, around interpretation and discipline and achievement on our instrument. And yes, these are absolutely essential, but not what brings music to life. We are rarely taught how to open, how to ignite, how to be moved. You see, these are the inner conditions that transform sound into something deeply felt. Great performance asks for more than technical mastery. Great performance requires emotional availability, an active imagination, and the courage to be fully seen. Most performers are trained only in the mechanics of their instrument. So moments of greatness appear, but they don't stay. Secret number 2, why the very thing you're doing to protect yourself on stage is actually holding you back. Okay, we're going to do another little exercise now. So grab something to write with. You're going to need it. It's going to give you a moment, a few seconds. Run, run, run. Get that paper and writing implement. Okay. Take a few minutes to write without trying to make your answers polished or complete. Think about a way you learned to protect yourself when you were younger. Perhaps you learned to stay quiet, to please others, or to hide your feelings. Maybe you learned to remain in control, or maybe you had to be perfect, or maybe you had to make yourself smaller, or even avoid being seen entirely. You don't need to revisit the entire experience, simply notice the protection that grew from it. Now, write from your own perspective. 1, what happened or kept happening to you that made me need this protection? What happened or kept happening that made me need this protection? Name only what feels safe to acknowledge, unless you feel the need to name more. 2, what did I learn I had to do to feel safe, accepted, and loved? What did I learn I had to do to feel safe, accepted, or loved? I learned that I had to fill in the blank. I learned that I had to feel safe, accepted, and loved. 3, how did this armor protect me? It kept others from seeing blank. It helped me avoid feeling or risking blank. How did this armor protect me? 4, how does this armor appear in my life now? How does this armor appear in my life now? My armor appears when blank happens. And it causes me to, my armor appears in my life when five. How does this armor come on stage with me? How does this armor come on stage with me? When my armor takes over my body, when my armor takes over my breath, when my armor takes over my sound, when my armor takes over my connection to the music, of course, if you're watching a recording of this, we're live tonight, but if you're watching a recording, you can pause it anytime and write down your answers. 6, question 6. What does this armor cost me as an artist? What does this armor cost me as an artist? Because of this armor, I hold back. What does this armor cost me as an artist? Take a moment to write. Okay. Now what I want you to do is write directly to that protective part of yourself. See, when it first was there, when we were children, it was there to protect us. So thank you for protecting me when I needed you. You helped me feel safe, accepted, or loved. But I'm not in that place anymore. I don't need you. I don't need you to disappear. I need you to let me lead. Without that armor, I want to allow blank. If I let myself be witnessed, the audience might finally experience what? If I let myself simply be and be witnessed, my audience might finally experience what? Let that sink in and notice what you feel in your body. You don't have to force the armor away. Just simply recognize this is my armor. It's not my identity. It protected me once. Now I can begin choosing when to put it down. Okay, when something isn't working, most serious musicians assume the answer is more effort, more refinement, more discipline, more control. Sometimes it's true, but very often what feels like a lack of preparation is actually a nervous system under strain. You probably already have much of the artistry that you're reaching for. This work isn't about becoming more impressive. It's about becoming less guarded and less tense and more at home in your own body while people are watching you. And the good news is this is something that you can learn and practice. Secret number 3, why you need a method. Or how to access your inner score and bring it to life in performance every time. Glenn Gould developed very specific inner techniques for performance. Before playing, he would mentally hear the entire interpretation. He would shape the emotional architecture of the piece in his imagination and use intense internal focus to enter what he described as a state of complete immersion. One performance is ordinary, the other one takes your breath away. Talent alone is not reliable under pressure. On stage, your adrenaline changes everything. And without a method, we depend on how we feel in that moment. But a method gives us something steady to return to. Now, emotion doesn't appear on command, but we can create the conditions for it through imagination, through memory, through the body and the breath. A method gives us a reliable path to emotional depth. Under stress, as you know, the body protects itself. It tightens, it armors, it tries to take control. But a method helps us release that tension and perform with openness and freedom. Experience alone does not equal freedom, okay? I mean, you could be performing for 30 years and you know this. You still rush, you numb out, you over control, you disconnect. Repetition by itself doesn't create freedom. It can actually harden habits. A method interrupts autopilot. Technique on your instrument is not the same as expression. Technique trains the musical instrument, but it doesn't necessarily release fear, self-judgment, or the armor we carry on stage. For that, we need a method for the human instrument. Now, here's the thing. Consistency requires a structure. A lot of musicians have great moments, sometimes, but playing with depth and freedom consistently is rare. And a method can give you structure, a sequence to follow, a clear process, a warm-up that goes beyond scales, and a way to return when you drift. Without that structure, deep performance happens by accident, not by design. I'm going to say that again. Without structure, deep performance happens by accident, not by design. Now, I've talked about why a method matters. And I don't want to just explain the inner score to you. I want to let you experience it. Before we do this, though, I want to say something about why we're here tonight. People generally don't start looking for something like being on stage because performing already feels exactly the way they want it to feel. Usually there's something getting in the way. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's self-consciousness or judgment. Maybe you find yourself holding back or trying too hard, trying to please, trying to get it right, trying to control what other people are thinking about you. Or maybe there's a person you know yourself to be and an artist you know yourself to be, but somehow that person doesn't always fully appear when you stand in front of others. And at some point, that begins to matter. Because for me, this isn't only about becoming a better performer, it's about becoming freer. And I believe that's profound work because the things we do to ourselves on stage, the ways we protect ourselves, the way we judge ourselves and make ourselves smaller and try to please, try to control how other people see us don't necessarily begin and end on stage. We carry them with us all the time. So rather than spend the next few minutes telling you what the inner score is, I'd like you to experience it. It's going to take you through the whole inner score, starting at zero, freeing the body, freeing the heart, finding the sound, finding the life, being, and finally being on stage. We're going to do it without an instrument now. There's an advantage to the fact that I can't see you. Nobody else can see you either. So you have absolutely nothing to show me. You can't impress me. You can't disappoint me. Nobody knows whether you're doing this correctly. This is entirely between you and yourself. So if you're comfortable doing it, put both feet on the floor. You can stand if you'd like to stand. That's okay too. Let your hands be free. And if you can see yourself anywhere on the screen, don't watch. Do not watch yourself. You don't need to know what you look like. And here's the most important thing. Don't try to be good at this. Excuse me. Don't try to become present or vulnerable, and don't try to make something happen. There's one question underneath everything we're about to do. If I can let go of this, what becomes possible? If I can let go of this, what becomes possible? Let's begin. Starting at zero. Before we do anything, notice how much you may already be doing. Maybe you're trying to listen correctly. Maybe you're trying to understand what I'm saying. Maybe you're trying to get something out of this. Maybe part of you is already wondering, am I doing this right? Just notice that. And now see if you can let it go. There's nothing you have to accomplish right now. Nothing to prove. There's no particular thing you're supposed to feel. You don't need to be expressive. You don't need to be interesting. You don't even need to try to be present. Just be where you are. What happens when you don't have to do anything at all? That's starting at zero. Phase 2 of the inner score, freeing the body. Now bring your attention to your body. Don't change anything yet. Just notice. Where are you holding? Where are you holding? Your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your belly, your hands, your face, your breath. don't try to relax. Instead, just notice when you're doing something physically that you simply don't need to do. Notice whether you're doing something physically that you simply do not need to do. And when you find something, see what happens if you stop doing it. Let yourself breathe. Let your arms be free. If your shoulders want to drop, let them drop. And let your face stop trying to look like anything. Your body doesn't need to help you look okay. What happens when your body doesn't have to work so hard? If I can release what doesn't need to be held, my body becomes available. That's freeing the body. Phase 3, freeing the heart. Now let's move a little deeper. Think about what happens when other people are watching you. What do you protect? What don't you want them to see? Maybe it's fear or nervousness or your need or excitement, vulnerability. Maybe you don't want them to see that you might get it wrong. Maybe you don't want them to see how much you want them to like you or how much you want them to admire you. Maybe it's something completely different. Don't change it and don't try to become vulnerable. That's just another thing to perform. Simply notice the armor and ask yourself, do I need all of it now? If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to make yourself comfortable. If you're nervous, you don't have to stop being nervous. If you're afraid, you don't have to pretend you're not. And if you're enjoying yourself, you don't need to hide that either. What becomes possible when I don't have to protect myself from being seen? What becomes possible when I don't have to protect myself from being seen? If I don't have to protect myself, I can allow myself to be effective. That's freeing the heart. Finding the sound. Now think of a piece of music you love to play. Don't play it, and don't try to imagine the most beautiful version of it. Instead, go to the very instant before the first sound, before that first note, before your instrument, before all of that, there's breath. Before that, there's an impulse. There's something that wants to come out. Stay with that for a minute. Where does your sound begin before it becomes sound? Now imagine that first sound emerging from that place. Not the beautiful sound, not the impressive sound, not even the right sound, your sound. The sound belonging to the person sitting or standing in your spot right now. If I stop trying to make the right sound, maybe something that belongs to me Something that is uniquely me can emerge. That's finding the sound. Phase 5, finding the life. Now go underneath the notes, underneath the dynamics and the phrasing, underneath everything and anything you've learned about how this piece is supposed to go. Now, something caused this music to exist. There was an impulse. Maybe it was longing. Maybe it was loss or joy, rage. Maybe it was rage, anger, or love, or beauty. Something made this music need to exist. Whether somebody else wrote this music or whether you wrote it yourself, what was the impulse that created the music in the first place? Don't interpret it. Don't decide what you should feel. Don't manufacture a response. Just encounter that impulse, that thing that made the music have to exist. And whatever you find there, let it matter to you. If I can connect with the impulse that created the music, I don't have to manufacture its life. I do not have to manufacture the life of the music if I find the impulse. That is this phase of finding the life. Phase 6 is being. Now, let everything that we just did go. You don't have to free your body. You don't have to open your heart. You don't have to find your sound. You don't have to find the life. You don't have to connect or be expressive. You don't have to feel anything. You don't have to accomplish being. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to create. And there's nothing to show. Just be here. Nothing to do. That's being. Now take a moment and notice what, if anything, has shifted in your body. Has anything shifted in your attention or the way you feel about performing? Take just a moment and notice if anything has shifted for you in terms of the way you feel about performing. And phase 7, being on stage. And now imagine that absolutely nothing about you changes, except there are people in front of you. Okay, so they're listening and they're watching and you're being seen. Notice what happens inside you. Do you suddenly want to give them something? Do you want them to like you? Do you want to impress them? Do you pull back? Do you start wondering what they're thinking? Don't fix any of it. Just notice. And see if you can remain where you already were. You don't have to reach out and make a connection happen. You don't have to retreat and protect yourself. You don't have to make the audience feel anything. You don't have to become interesting. You don't have to perform. You remain inside your own experience while allowing yourself to be witnessed. Nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to perform. If I can remain inside my own experience while allowing myself to be witnessed, then I can simply be on stage. Before we move on, just take a moment. Don't analyze the experience. Just notice whether anything is different from when we began. Maybe something substantial changed. Maybe the change was tiny. Maybe you noticed something you've been doing for years without realizing it. Maybe nothing happened. That's okay too. But ask yourself this: where did I notice myself trying? And then ask, what became possible when I stopped? What's fascinating to me about what we just did is that there wasn't any music. There was no instrument. There was no difficult passage to negotiate. There wasn't even a physical stage. And yet almost everything that can happen to us on stage had the opportunity to appear. The desire to get it right, the awareness of being watched, the physical holding, the armor, the impulse to present ourselves, the desire to make something happen. The question, am I doing this correctly? And underneath all of it was something much simpler, much simpler. You. That's what this work is moving towards. Not getting better at looking present, not becoming better at appearing expressive, not figuring out how to protect authenticity or project authenticity. It's about removing enough of what gets in the way that you don't have to manufacture yourself. It's about, I'm going to say that again. It's about removing enough of what gets in the way that you no longer have to manufacture you. Look at the progression we just experienced, starting at zero. If I can start with nothing, I can stop performing, freeing the body. If I can stop holding what doesn't need to be held, my body becomes available, freeing the heart. If I can remove some armor, a piece here, a piece there, I can allow myself to be affected, finding the sound. If I stop trying to produce the right sound, something that belongs to me, that's uniquely me, can emerge, finding the life. If I can find the impulse that created the music in the first place, I don't have to manufacture meaning. Being, being. If I can release all the work, I can simply be. And then being on stage. If I can remain inside my own experience while letting other people witness me, I don't have to perform. I don't have to perform being myself. I can simply be on stage. That's the inner score. There's an important distinction I want to make now. What we just did took a few minutes. I was guiding you the entire time. You didn't have an instrument in your hands. Nobody could even see you. The real work begins when you learn to make these things available to yourself when something is actually at stake. When you're standing on stage, when the music is hard, when you're auditioning, when someone whose opinion matters to you is sitting in front of you, when you're nervous, when you desperately want to play well, when something goes wrong, when your body starts tightening, when judgments begin, when the old armor comes back, because it will. It will. This is why the inner score isn't a trick. And what we just did isn't the work itself, it's a glimpse of the work. It's a glimpse, little taste. The practice is learning to recognize what stands between you and being fully present and learning to let it go again and now again and again and again. Let it go, let it go, let it go until you don't need me or anyone else talking you through it, until it belongs to you. And this brings me back to why this matters so much to me. I don't think the things we do to protect ourselves on stage necessarily originate on stage. The judging, the pleasing, the holding, the hiding, the making ourselves little and small, the attempt to control what other people think about us. We bring ourselves onto the stage, and that means that when we begin becoming freer there, something larger happens. What is it? Yeah, we become freer, period. And that's why, for me, being on stage isn't ultimately about teaching you to become a different person when you perform. And it certainly isn't about turning you into my idea of an expressive artist. It's almost the opposite. It's about removing enough of what gets in the way so that when you stand in front of other people, more of you is actually there. Without a method, you reinforce the wrong thing. Every time you push through fear, perform while armored, or defending yourself, or simply survive instead of truly connecting, you strengthen the survival pattern in your body. A method helps change what you practice under pressure so that new and more open responses can develop. Great artists have a method. They use rituals, mental cues, body awareness, emotional preparation. They turn their intuition into something that they can actually return to again and again. Great performers know how to shift their inner state before performing. They may use rituals or body awareness and mental cues, but most of us were never taught how to do these. That's what they do, but what do we do? Because nobody taught us this stuff. Yehudi Menuhin didn't just practice the violin, he spent decades working on his inner state through yoga and meditation and body awareness because he knew something most musicians are never taught. True musical freedom comes from integrating body, mind, and spirit. Technique is really the elimination of obstacles between inspiration and expression. I love that, and ain't it the truth? Finding what works for you. Okay, another thing. We each access freedom and emotion differently through movement or breath or memory. This course helps you discover not what works for me, but what works for you, not what works for the guy sitting next to you, what works for you. Different artists unlock freedom in different ways. Some it's through movement, some it's through the breath. Maybe it's through emotional release or the sound or kinesthetic awareness. Explore and notice what opens you. Explore and notice what opens you. Freedom needs a framework. Structure doesn't limit spontaneity, it makes it possible. When you have a process you trust, there's more room for freedom and play. At the end of this evening, I'm going to share the daily being practice. It's a little booklet that I put together, and it's a simple way to begin to bring this work into your life and into your performing on a daily basis. So this is what we've covered. We covered why technical mastery of your instrument alone will never, ever, ever make you a free performer, and the thing that will. We covered why the very thing you're doing to protect yourself on stage is actually holding you back. And We covered how to access your inner score and bring it to life in performance every time. Maybe you understand now that it's not that you can't do it, it's that your body reacts when people are watching. Also, you may have discovered that those reactions became your armor, meaning they were trying to keep you safe when you were a kid. I've also shown you how to gently loosen that armor by creating an inner life. So when you step onto the stage, you don't have to hide. Okay, question for you. What did you notice? Did anything shift in your body? Your attention? Your connection to yourself? What did you notice? What if the ability to access imagination, emotion, and presence on stage could actually be trained the way we train technique on our instrument? Now, you can take what I shared with you today and you can use it to change your life for the better. I have confidence that even after our short time together here, that you understand a way to help you have the agency over your inner life that maybe you didn't think about before. And if that were your only option, it would certainly be a worthy ideal to pursue. But what if we could take this work further, beyond a single masterclass, with the time and continuity to work at a deeper level? Bring it into a space where we stay with the process together and help you access what's already there. If that kind of support were available to you, would you want to explore it? So here's what I'm going to offer you. Being on stage, the inner score, the whole enchilada, the inner score, starting at zero, freeing the body, freeing the heart, finding the sound, finding the life, being, and then being on stage. What you've seen today is just the beginning. This work goes so much deeper. This work is for musical artists who have strong skills, but who know that their artistry isn't always coming through. This work is for artists who want greater freedom, greater emotional depth, and greater connection to themselves on stage and to the audience. This is for artists who are ready to move beyond what's comfortable, to do honest inner work, and to allow themselves to be fully seen. This work, okay, guys, this work takes time and openness and commitment. This is not something that you just snap your fingers at and it just happens. This is work. If this sparks something for you today, okay, I'm offering a limited number of complimentary 45-minute strategy sessions. And what we're going to do in those sessions is we're going to talk about where you are as a performer, and we're going to see whether this program would be a meaningful next step for you. On that call, we will explore what you want from your performing life, what may be holding you back, and whether being on stage is a good fit for you. Over the course of a year, this is a year-long course, you're going to develop a process for becoming grounded and open and emotionally present under pressure so that you can bring not just a little bitty self, but your whole self to the music every time you perform. If this speaks to you, if you're ready for greater freedom and deeper emotional connection on stage, I have time over the next week to talk with a few of you about whether this work is right for you. We'll spend about 45 minutes exploring what's working, what's limiting your freedom, and what might be possible. And I'll also share a few ways that you can begin shifting those patterns right away. This could be a deeply valuable conversation about you, your life, and your artistry. What becomes possible Well, you'll perform with greater freedom and consistency and emotional depth. You will stay grounded under pressure. You will connect deeply with your audience and bring story, imagination, and meaning to the music. You'll walk on stage with a process that you can trust, open, present, fully alive. Now, there are different ways to continue this work. You can keep discovering through experience, learning as you go along, with some performances that are fully open and others that aren't. That's how many, if not most, artists find their way. Or you can approach the work more intentionally with guidance, not only in what you do, but in how you be while you're doing it. A process that makes the inner work clear, repeatable, and reliable. This is the work that I have been exploring, examining, and working on for decades. And it is what I've shared with you this evening. But as I said, it's not something you can get in just the blink of an eye. This is something that takes work, just like mastering your instrument. If you are ready to explore this work, I am here to support you. This is a path I walk myself every day, and it's one that you don't have to walk alone. This work is what transformed and continues to transform me and others. Imagine walking on stage calm, grounded, and ready. Imagine performing at your true level, not occasionally, but consistently. Imagine feeling fully expressed and fully yourself in front of any audience. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Change begins the moment you start working differently. When does the work begin? When you decide you're ready.